Turn your old car, truck, motorcycle, or boat into programs you love by donating it to New England Public Media. You can even receive a tax deduction when you itemize your return.
That's very nice.
Call the toll-free number or go online and we'll take care of the rest, including pickup at no cost to you. Rev up our programming. Donate your vehicle to NEPM.
You're watching New England Public Media on WGBY Springfield.
Spend a year with activist Greta Thunberg.
I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the science.
On her journey to combat climate change.
You haven't seen anything yet.
This is Greta Thunberg, a year to change the world.
Tune in or stream April 22nd.
Coming up, stories we're connecting you with tonight. We visit a street in West Springfield where the American dream is still going strong.
You have a plan, you can do it. Anyone can do anything in this country because the blessings and opportunities that gives you, I see very few countries give that.
We discuss the rise in anti-Asian violence in the nation.
Saying that anti-Asian racism is un-American is actually a way of avoiding a systemic analysis of the roots of this violence.
And Congressman 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗧 on gun control laws and the president's sweeping new infrastructure and jobs package.
Biden is asking big corporations to actually pay their fair share. So we're not going to add to the deficit, but we're going to invest in our infrastructure, which means we're investing in jobs and in our economy.
Details on those stories and more up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point. I'm 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗲𝗏. To the casual observer, at first glance, Main Street of West Springfield may seem like just another street in Anytown USA. But upon closer inspection, they'll see that there's an ethnic makeup that runs the gamut from Myanmar to Romania and all points in between. Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan met with two of the street's shopkeepers with two entirely different stories, but one similar pursuit, the American dream.
Oftentimes, Main Street of blue-collar America has certain elements that not only give it its unique charm, but also separate it from its more metropolitan contemporaries. Maybe it's the freight train that cuts through its center, or the crosstown bus tearing through at breakneck speeds. It might be the side street neighborhood that rests on the edge of a busy highway with rows of triple-decker homes separated by chain-link fences. A century ago, these storefronts may have had traditional French, Italian, or Irish names. Now they cater to the most recent groups who have crossed the ocean to become citizens here in the United States. This is West Springfield, home to the third highest refugee population in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And according to the paintings on the side of Merrick Station, they have truly traveled from all points on the globe to get here. I was here back in the fall of 2018 when they painted this mural celebrating the ethnic diversity of the entirety of West Springfield. But just within a couple of blocks here on Main Street, I can find businesses owned by people who came here from Russia, Nepal, Turkey, and Lebanon, just to name a few. So for those who arrived here with that entrepreneurial spirit, this has been the street built on the American dream. For one entrepreneur, that dream had the sounds of buzzers, scissors, and satisfied customers. But hearing them here in the United States, well, that wasn't really on his radar when he was just a kid working with his uncles at their barber shops in Baghdad.
After the war, to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about leaving Iraq. But the opportunity came to my door, and I had a chance to move to the U.S. And I took it. And I'm a big believer that there's an opportunity for me there, and I always thought about owning my own business.
Before opening shop here in Westside in October of 2018, 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 spent his first 8 stateside years learning the ins and outs of American culture while cutting hair in an Iraqi community in Hartford, Connecticut. It was those first few weeks in the Nutmeg State that really helped set the tone for his American experience.
It was definitely helpful for the beginning because you need some support in the first couple of days when you move to a new country. You have to develop skills of speaking different language, of course, and then and then you have to take it from there to navigate what route do you want to take.
In 2016, 𝗕𝗫𝗂𝗲, who'd been a refugee only a few years prior, became a full-fledged American citizen, joining an Iraqi-American community that makes up less than 1% of West Springfield's overall population. But here on the corner of Russell and Main Streets, that presence feels much greater. Lebanese Americans, meanwhile, make up a slightly larger contingent in West Springfield at roughly 1.5%, although they've been a part of the American fabric since the 1800s. But for all of the assimilation they've achieved over the centuries, sometimes the smell of traditional Lebanese cuisine is just enough to spark a craving for a taste of the old country.
I'm myself from Lebanon, so this Lebanese food here, and I like I like the most the people. They're very generous, very nice, great cook.
That generosity and love of cooking turned out to be the driving force behind opening the restaurant in August of 2014. But the idea at first seemed a bit out of left field when owner 𝗫𝗫𝗄𝗃𝗃𝗃's husband proposed that he quit his job as a mechanical engineer and she quit hers as an interpreter and social worker to give this thing a go.
And in the beginning, I was like, are you okay? Like business that we don't know anything about. We love cooking. Like I used to always host a lot of parties, host a lot of dinners, you know. We love cooking, sharing food with everybody. Like this is an Arab Mediterranean culture that you always cooking and sharing with everybody. And he said, let's do it. And so he quit his job, I quit my job, and we opened that restaurant.
Coming to the United States on a green card with her husband in 1997, 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗃's journey to American citizenship was different from 𝗕𝗁𝒽𝒂𝒃's, who arrived on these shores as a refugee. But my question for each of them as they navigate the rocky waters of running a successful business is the same. Is the American dream still alive?
You have a plan, you can do it. Anyone can do anything in this country. Anyone. Like, that's what I tell my kids. Take advantage. Because the blessings and opportunities that gives you, I see very few countries give that.
It's still alive, it still exists. This is the land of opportunities. If you put in the work, and if you put in the discipline, if you put in the hard work, it will definitely exist.
The American dream is a different experience for everyone in this country. And for many Asian Americans recently, that dream has turned into a nightmare. 2 weeks ago, a gunman tragically shot and killed 8 people in 3 Atlanta area massage businesses. 6 out of the 8 people were of Asian descent, leaving the Asian American community reeling. Since the start of the pandemic, hate incidents against the Asian American community have been on the rise. According to a Pew Research Center survey, 3 in 10 Asian Americans report having experienced racial slurs since the beginning of the pandemic. And a national report released by Stop AAPI Hate, AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islander, revealed that there have been almost 3,800 anti-Asian hate incidents reported since last March. I spoke recently with 𝗕𝗄𝗄𝗃, Associate Professor of English and Critical Social Thought at Mount Holyoke College, to hear her perspective.
Of course, you know, there has been profound anger and despair across Asian American communities. I think that there has been a lot of outrage at the way the Atlanta sheriff, you know, really first decided to prioritize the humanity of the white male shooter, you know, explaining that he had had a really bad day and that he struggled with a sex addiction. You know, the women he targeted were workers, mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives, but the sheriff reduced their humanity to the racist, misogynist fantasies of their killer, regardless of whether his victims were sex workers or not.
At the beginning of this pandemic, you spoke on Connecting Point around former President Trump's rhetoric around the coronavirus and the Asian community. He referred to the coronavirus as the Kung Flu and Chinese virus. With a new administration in office and having a vice president who is of South Asian descent, what changes do you expect to see with this new leadership?
Sadly, when it comes to the specific question of xenophobia, I think that in your reference to Donald Trump, I mean, certainly he was responsible for stoking xenophobic racism when he continually referred to COVID-19 as the Chinese virus, and then imposing sanctions against China. But when we look at the Biden administration, it's virtually indistinguishable in terms of its anti-China policies as well. Trump called China, a threat to the world and imposed, as I mentioned, economic sanctions. But the new administration has also, said that, China is our pacing threat. And what I just want to underscore here is that U.S. foreign policy in Asia has always had an impact on anti-Asian sentiment in the U.S. because most Americans lump all Asians together as a kind of foreign other. So when government officials, express fears over China and other Asian countries, Americans often resort to racist narratives that cast doubt on the loyalty and belonging of 20 million Asian Americans. And, we can even contrast this with the treatment, with the situation with Russia, which, was accused of hacking and election interference, but that has virtually no impact on Americans of Russian descent. And so we can see the disparity, in the consequences for this kind of China saber rattling that has followed from the Trump administration into the Biden administration.
Similar to the Black Lives Matter movement, protesting and rallies are just one action to take against this type of discrimination. What are some other actions that people can take against anti-Asian violence?
I think that's a great question. And one of the questions that I would actually have for the Biden-Harris administration is to ask them to stop, saying that anti-Asian racism is somehow un-American, which is how President Biden described the anti-Asian violence in the Atlanta shooting at a press briefing recently. All we need to do is to review the history to determine what is American or un-American about anti-Asian violence. First there was the violent anti-Chinese labor movements of the late 19th and 20th centuries. In 1875, Congress passed the Page Law, which barred Chinese women on the basis of their presumed sexual immorality. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which restricted Chinese immigration for over half a century. During World War II, we saw the West Coast expulsion and incarceration of 120,000 Japanese Americans in remote concentration camps. In 1982, two unemployed white auto workers murdered Vincent Chin with a baseball bat, blaming him as a Chinese American for the decline of the U.S. auto industry to Japanese competition. And both men were acquitted and never served one day in prison. In 1999, Chinese American scientist 𝗕𝗄𝗄 was accused of being a spy who passed nuclear secrets to China. And, he was in prison for 9 months in solitary confinement before he was exonerated. And then, of course, after 9/11, we've witnessed the dramatic escalation of, racial profiling and violence against South Asian communities and any kind of Muslim-looking people. So in a nutshell, anti-Asian racism is, in fact, it's been all too American. So I think that saying that anti-Asian racism is un-American is actually a way of avoiding a systemic analysis of the roots of this violence, which would involve implicating white supremacy, xenophobia, and U.S. imperial violence.
Every Friday night, Connecting Point explores the people, places, and ideas that matter most to Western New England. But it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content, including this look at springtime in Western New England, as Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan showcases the beauty of the region as it wakes from its wintertime slumber. Don't miss this digital exclusive available online right now at anypm.org/connectingpoint. For nearly 30 years, Blue Rider Stable in Great Barrington has provided rehabilitation services through horseback riding. Last summer, they received one of their biggest challenges when 𝗕𝗏 Zabian arrived for her first lesson. 𝗕𝗏 had nearly died a year prior when she was hit by a car, but through months of hard work, she's taking the small steps to one day walk on her own again. Connecting Point's Ross Lipman introduces us to the Zabian family and the unlikely survival of their daughter.
Most days start and end the same. At Blue Rider Stable in Great Barrington. Really, all day long, the sounds are the same.
There, now we're fast too.
But for the last 29 years, every client is different, with unique needs that go way beyond learning to ride a horse.
We're good right now.
Like 20-year-old 𝗕𝗏 Zabian.
Can you ask him to walk? What do we say? Walk on?
Yeah.
Good job, Val.
This is her 7th week riding.
How you doing? How's that elbow doing over there?
Each step in trot, alongside instructor 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗃𝗍𝗍,
You don't have to hold the handle, you can just hold the rein.
is designed to provide 𝗕𝗏 physical therapy.
Did you think 𝗕𝗏 would be able to make the type of recovery she has so far?
I really didn't think that we'd be progressing as quickly as we're progressing.
But to understand how significant moments like this are,
And then let's watch what Mom's doing up here.
you have to see what 𝗕𝗏's mother, Lisa, saw on the night of August 7th, 2019.
They came in, they said, you need to come see 𝗕𝗏. So my husband and they brought us into the emergency room, and she was on the table. Her eyes were rolled back in her head. She was non-responsive, obviously. And they were like, kiss her, give her a kiss, tell her you love her. Because I think they didn't think she was going to make it.
𝗕𝗏 had been driving when she struck the guardrail near Fountain Pond in Great Barrington. According to police, while she was outside her car along Route 7, she was hit by another vehicle, breaking multiple bones and causing severe brain damage.
Once you saw her, did you think she was going to make it?
I think I did. There was no way I was accepting the fact that she was going to die. And I just, from the second I got that phone call from Ali, I just started praying. And I didn't stop for a second. I just kept praying and praying and praying. And I just said, just keep her alive. Because if she's alive, then I know she will heal.
As 𝗕𝗏's condition slowly improved,
Her first sitting up experience like this.
Lisa started documenting every moment, from opening her hand
𝗕𝗏! Now close your hand. Go ahead, close it. Close it, 𝗕𝗏. Make it tight.
to opening her eyes,
Hold my hand so you can sit up tall.
sitting up,
Sit up tall. You're falling.
first steps, every small victory that came.
Come on, Kelly.
Until finally,
Welcome home.
she was home again.
Welcome home.
Now,
Can you ask him to walk on?
Yeah, walk on.
𝗕𝗏's days are filled with the work to regain full mobility, which includes her weekly visit to Blue Rider.
So again, I was praying one morning, and I was like, you know what? She needs to ride a horse. And 𝗕𝗏 never liked horses.
So you specifically said she needs to be riding a horse?
I'm like, she needs to ride a horse.
Why a horse?
I don't know. I'm like, she needs to ride a horse. She needs to do therapy on a horse.
And show me how tall you can sit.
I mean, at first, I was a little, scared when I first got on and everything. But with her behind me, and also, they're also holding my legs in the exact spot that they should stay.
We've dealt with some really fun challenges over the years. And 𝗕𝗏's seemed like we had our work cut out for us.
I thought that's what it was like.
And it's becoming easier for 𝗕𝗏.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
The strength required to stay upright while riding 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃, one of Blue Rider's therapy horses, is paying off in every other aspect of her life.
3, 2, 1, boom.
like on her daily walk
Callie, say hi.
through Fairmount Cemetery. It's right across the street from the Zabians' home, and where Lisa says Callie would have been laid to rest had things ended the way doctors expected 20 months ago. But now Callie hardly ever rests.
I don't want your foot to start hurting again.
Her goals are too big to stop now.
My next goal is to be able to walk without my brace and just walk like everyone else. You know, get to jogging and running again.
I want to show that you can get through a tragedy. And not only can you get through it, but you can get through it with joy and laughter and tears. And all of it. And it's all going to be okay, especially when you walk with God.
The river takes me, carry me through.
On Wednesday, President Joe Biden introduced a sweeping $2 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. The proposal aims to reshape the American economy in addition to making the most wide-ranging U.S. investments in generations. The infrastructure package comes as the debate over tougher gun control laws heats up following recent mass shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, and Boulder, Colorado. Connecting Point's 𝗿𝗫𝗄 spoke with Massachusetts 2nd District Congressman Jim McGovern to get his thoughts on what the chances are that more restrictive gun laws could become a reality this year, as well as his reaction to the president's massive infrastructure proposal.
We have neglected our infrastructure for decades, and we see the results: aging roads and bridges, water and sewer facilities that need to be repaired. We're not investing in housing, we're not investing in rail or in our airports. I go right down the list. So this is a much needed initiative, and it's paid for. Biden is asking big corporations, many of them who have escaped paying taxes because of all the loopholes and some of the tax bills that were passed over the years, including Trump's tax bill, to actually pay their fair share. So we're not going to add to the deficit, but we're going to invest in our infrastructure, which means we're investing in jobs and in our economy. And so I'm going to do everything I can to try to bring it over the finish line.
What would this particular infrastructure bill, as the president has detailed it, mean for Massachusetts itself? How would it help the Bay State?
Well, Congressman Neal and I have been, a huge cheerleader for East-West Rail. So I think I would expect that a big chunk of this bill will go to support rail projects all across the country, including the one we want to see here in Massachusetts. It means upgrades in aging water and sewer systems, upgrades in roads and bridges that are in disrepair. And it also means that we can invest in housing, which is a necessity, and in school repairs, which will also be covered by this. So Massachusetts, which is an old state and we have old infrastructure, will benefit greatly from this.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell called the infrastructure proposal a Trojan horse full of big tax hikes. With that kind of opposition and that kind of feeling, what do you feel going forward? Are you going to be able to get any kind of Republican support?
Yeah, well, I don't really care what Mitch McConnell says. I mean, Mitch McConnell has been a hindrance to moving progressive and thoughtful legislation forward for many years now. When the Republicans were in charge of the Senate, the House, and the presidency, they did nothing on infrastructure. This was not a priority. And the fact is, their priority was tax cuts, mostly for rich people, a tax bill that allowed big corporations, many of them, to escape paying any federal taxes. And their other priority was trying to overturn the Affordable Care Act and throw millions of people off of their health insurance. So we have a different set of priorities. Whether or not we get some Republican senators and members of Congress to support it or not remains to be seen. But we need to get it done.
Congressman McGovern, wanted to get your thoughts on another issue that has come up, obviously, year after year, and certainly now in the wake of recent mass shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, and also in Boulder, Colorado. What is the likelihood that we could see meaningful, tougher gun control legislation enacted into law this legislative session?
Well, I'm sick about the fact that, in spite of massacres that have occurred on a regular basis in this country, in spite of the high uptick in gun-related deaths, the Congress hasn't been able to get anything done. Now, we had a president under Trump who was in the back pocket of the gun lobby. He didn't want to do anything. But we have President Biden wants to expand universal background checks. He wants to close loopholes. He supports the ban on assault weapons. I mean, why does anybody need an assault weapon? Why do you need a weapon of war? Unless it is to kill somebody. And by the way, I saw a poll today that like 75% of the American people favor expanding universal background checks. I mean, 65% favor a ban on assault weapons. So this is widely popular. The only place it's not popular is with some senators who are in the back pocket of the gun lobby, who benefit financially from their contributions, and who are more committed to supporting a special interest than the public interest.
And Congressman, one of the issues that has come up with regard to background checks is that, for example, Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, can't support the House-passed bills, the two bills that were passed in the House with regard to background checks, of course, and assault weapons. With regard to the background checks, the senator feels that if an individual is selling his gun privately, if I want to sell you a gun or vice versa, that individual shouldn't have to undergo massive background checks. Yes, maybe for commercial sales and gun shows and that kind of thing. Could you support a proposal that would not allow background checks for individual sales?
Look, I think Senator Manchin's concern is unwarranted and, quite frankly, misses the point. I mean, the bottom line is, if I'm, I should not be able to sell a gun to somebody who has who would fail a criminal background check. I mean, why does that make sense? And it really is offensive that parents who have lost their children to gun violence come to Congress and plead with senators and members of Congress to do something, and up until now, nothing happens. That just has to change. We have a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democrat in the White House who actually understands the pain of gun violence in this country. So maybe the stars are aligned that we can get something done.
That does it for Connecting Point for April 2nd, 2021. Remember, you can always find the stories that you saw tonight, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and more online anytime at anypm.org/connectingpoint. And please join us again next Friday night at 6 right here on New England Public Media for more stories of the people, places, and ideas that matter most to Western New England. I'm 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗄𝗏. Be safe and have a good night.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
I hate the myth of Hemingway. It obscures the man.
His talent is stunning.
He went against the grain.
In order to have something new to write, he had to have something new to live.
Hemingway, the man, is much